first off, I definitely wanted to be like, if you're new here, I'm KatyDee, and let's see, I started about 15 years ago in Reiki and craniosacral therapy, and at the time, I was also teaching yoga and doing massage therapy and teaching Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So that's I've kind of always been a person who is loves contemplating deep things and loves getting to what is the truth about the world that we live in. Some things are mysteries, and I realize they'll remain mysteries, but I always love to just kind of dive in and see what can I find out and what can be true. Um, so basically, after probably 3 or 4 years of, like I said, yoga, jujitsu, Reiki, craniosacral therapy, and I saw amazing things. That was an amazing time in my life. My husband and I finally found our farm that we'd been looking for, and we ended up settling down and having our babies. So after that, it was like, I ended up not driving into town. Um, for that work. And so I ended up doing work from home, which was like admin work and stuff for an engineering firm. So I went from like totally intuitive healer to like working with engineers. It was kind of a strange thing, but what's funny is now that I know my human design, whenever I'm looking at my chart, I'm like, I actually have a foot in both doors, like the intuitive and the logical. And I really love that about myself. Human design will absolutely show you the patterns and the things that you like distantly kind of know or realize, but it like brings it to the forefront in a way that's really fun. So, COVID basically had my engineering firm job go from like 20 hours a week to like 10 hours a week to like 2 hours a week. So at that point, I jumped into online business, and honestly, I had no idea what was pulling me towards it. I was just kind of like in the dark, and I feel like that's where a lot of people are whenever you're brand new. And some of us are brand new, and it's like we know exactly what we're doing. But for me, it was like I kind of keep saying this to my clients. It felt like there was an oak tree that existed, but I was merely an acorn, knowing that I'm like making my way towards this oak tree, but having like no idea how to get there. So it just kind of felt like I almost think of being a mole, just like looking for where the air is fresher, but with like no clarity and no sight really. Um, the jujitsu really served me well though, because it really gave me a lot of discipline as far as like things are hard and they're going to be hard, but that doesn't mean, that you just quit or give up. It means that you're like, one of the main things that I pulled from jujitsu is when you're brand new and somebody's like on your body, you're like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. But after a couple of months of training, somebody's on you and you're like, I can breathe. And so that's really the difference. And that was huge for me in business. And I always love bringing little insights from jujitsu into business because there's a lot there. Anyways, in my business, I spent a year or two just trying to get my feet underneath me, trying Instagram, trying TikTok, trying Facebook, going back to Instagram, trying to figure out like who it was I was talking to and what for, and what was my offer even about? What was my business even about? What am I even really here doing? The reality was that I needed a business to be successful because my job had dwindled to nothing. And honestly, it was like, I don't want to leave the farm and go get another job. I just don't. We homeschool and we grow flowers and veggies and sell at the farmer's market. So it's like, it's a vibe, and it's like, I don't want to leave this. How do I make all these things work for me? And then came human design for me. And that was, something I totally wasn't expecting. It kind of came in like a whisper, and I was like, yeah, 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 human design. Like, I know who I am. I'm a healer and I've been doing all this work for so long. Like, it can't possibly tell me anything I don't know. Um, Boy, was I wrong. It came in like an avalanche, and it like has this way of like knocking on the door and being like, are you ready yet? No. Okay. I'll come back in 6 months. And then whenever you're like, yeah, I'm ready, then the door just kind of like, that's how it was for me. It doesn't have to be that way, but I think that was um, I'm a 1-4 profile line. So I think that was my one that was like, Okay, now we got to be serious about finding everything out about this that we can. So let me think, where was I? Basically, the one, like I said, is what had me for a year or two just like doing this training, doing that training, and having this coach and trying this out. And it was like, I just felt like I needed to be so like have my footing beneath me, even though I was kind of like moving and doing to try and get somewhere, it was still like I never quite felt ready or like I had what it was. So I'm a 1-4 sacral generator, and a huge thing with generators is like we are here for mastery, but if we jump off the ride, we don't finish the ride. But if we finish the ride, we're basically looking at like this really long plateau with like this breakthrough where we're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing, and then we go back to a plateau. So really we have to commit to what it is that we're here to master, and whenever it feels kind of tough or like maybe we're ready to get off the ride, have those tools handy to bring us back towards what it is that we're here to do. So with that oak tree and acorn insight, I kind of keep thinking about human design and gene keys. And for me, it was like I said, I could sense that there was an oak tree there, but it's like, how do I get to it though? And it felt like it was just impossible. And the human design and gene keys, basically it allows you to go through one shadow after the next and even kind of be able to peek around the corner and see like where they're going to come up and try and mess with you. You can see them coming and you can name them, and it makes it so much easier to alchemize them. And so I think that is a huge component of what takes us through to the other side of that, and being able to grow into that oak tree so much quicker and in a way that feels amazing instead of like drudgery or, you know, uh, just like going on empty, feeling like we're not good enough, like all these things that jump into play. So, major thing I wanted to talk about today also is the full moon in Scorpio. So we're got a full moon, and we're in the gate 44, the gate of truth. And so what I'm saying when I say your business is medicine is it almost feels like a checklist, just like one after the other. It's like, here's a shadow, here's a shadow, here's a shadow. And, we'll probably go through that list more than once, I would say. We revisit those things. But when we know what they are, it makes it so much easier to come right back to what the gift is that's there waiting for us. And so with today's full moon, that's a huge component of it. And it's also something I've been seeing with clients leading up to this full moon, which I always love because um, it kind of reminds me. So I'm in Oklahoma, and in spring, there's just this one day in spring where like every red bud gets the memo and they all bloom at the same time. And I feel like we have this same thing going on with the collective consciousness. Like, we are all going through these certain things that have different variations, and the context is different. So maybe it looks a little different, but they're all so similar. So I just wanted to bring that into the live today to just kind of go over what I'm seeing and see if that resonates with anybody here watching. So the full moon is basically asking us to examine where we might be reacting from old wounds. To me, this is always the work, but it's awesome when you can kind of harness that energy and that power of the full moon in this gate on this day. But basically, like with courage, be able to release them, is see the pattern and examine it, and then release it and fully release it. Even though we might come back to it again, we'll release this layer of it. So, one of the major patterns that I've been seeing, I've done this work a lot for myself. So I honestly, if you were my coach, you'd probably see this for me. But like right now, I honestly don't feel this myself, but I'm seeing it often. And it's basically this idea of safety, like how and where are we trying to maintain safety? And what are the different aspects of it? How does it look, and how is it a little different for all of us? But how does it also have that same theme threading through it? And I just had a session yesterday with a client, and for her, the safety, it came up in lots of different ways, but one of the things had to do with a money wound, which I think is common for all of us, especially as far as investing in our business. It's like, well, it feels safe to just hold my money right here, and that way I know where it is. What we talked through was basically, you know, to feel safe usually entails some semblance, some sense of control. So we want our safety, so we want to feel in control so that we maintain our safety, but really it's all in an act of avoiding what's making us feel fearful. Um, what Richard Rudd says is with our fears and with our shadows to invite them in for tea. And I feel like that is this whole new insight, this whole new paradigm that we can bring into these places of ourselves is, total neutrality and total safety. And for me, the word is grace, like bringing grace to all of it and sitting with it with that deep neutrality in our heart, and just knowing, that like we are all human. And what Gene Keys is showing me is that we all have these components of ourselves that we are here, and that purpose of them being in our lives is for us to move through them. The shadow can be so dense and so dark that it like pulls you down I always think of it as like the Mariana Trench. It's so dense and it's so dark that it just kind of pulls you down into it. And the mistake there is to think that that's who you are or how you are. In reality, what I'm sensing is that it's a tendency. And so when we have the gift, that helps us see through those eyes. So when we have the tendency that we maybe used to fall into, now we have the gift that is a new pair of eyes to show us, like, actually, that's not the pattern that I want to go back into. I've healed that pattern, and I'm going this way now. So one major way that I've seen this show up again for clients in the last week or two, for safety, and this was me, but I worked through this. My last version of working through this was a couple months ago, but basically in our business, there's always this possibility of working harder and hustling to make us feel safe. Like if I'm working on this website and I'm downloading the new software and making sure that I have it installed and making sure that everything's connected, like that's all well and good. But let's absolutely examine the steps that we're taking right now that we think that we need to do, and just check in with ourselves and make sure that we are fully relaxed. And if we are generators or manifesting generators, we actually get to relax potentially the most, and let things truly just come to us. So all the doing and having and the making and all that, it's like, pedal to the metal. That is really not in sync with our energy type. And it will deplete you, even though you have all this energy to give it, and you're like zooming around and like doing. See if you can relax back a little bit from that and realize that the doing is making you feel safe. It makes you feel like, there's no way you could fail in your business if you're doing this or if you're doing that or if you're doing more. The more is a big component that we can totally fall into. And major thing here is that, let's see what the pattern is. Let's see what the fear is beneath that. So I was telling one of my clients, I was in a past life session that was really, really good. I really love past life work to help as a tool with all of this stuff that bubbles up. So, and then honestly, this is just me. I don't know if I actually subscribe to this being a past life necessarily. I definitely think it is a dream state that allows us to work with our non-conscious and heal and understand more deeply and bring something back. So like, is it a past life? I almost would rather not say, because I'm like, oh, it could be anything. But for me, I had one that was basically, and again, I hate to speculate too much, but basically what I saw was like cobblestone streets that were wet. And so from the movies I've seen, I've been to London, but my feeling, the urge was to say that it was London, and that I was an orphan boy who was about 12 years old. And so, basically what you're looking at there is like, I had, I think I had relatives that I could stay with, and I had a place in the church that I could stay. But what I chose was freedom, which feels a lot like entrepreneurship. It's like I could drive into town, or I could take another job online, or I can try out this thing where I like have my own business. But so in this life, I think that I potentially was hungry or had a hard time finding food. And so it actually left me with a sense of probably malnourishment. And so the way the session went was that I actually died this. In this life. And so what that made me realize and see was that that's what I was holding on to in my entrepreneurial ship, is like, if this doesn't work out, then like hunger, or death. And so what I sense with the fears that we're trying to stay in control of so that we feel safe, so we don't have to feel the fear, is a lot of times it does stem to, death or something that is deeper wounds for us. And those are like the ultimate wounds, right? And so, I mean, even with that, though, it's like, in our spiritual journeys, we can still totally get to a point where even if it does mean death, like we can still find peace with that. So that's really the component that we're looking at, is like how, with those deepest, darkest fears, like how can we still find peace? And really what's interesting, and in this session, we kind of dove into that too, as far as like what your fear is and wanting safety, is like, in the truth of your gift, that's actually where you get what you want. That's actually where you feel the safety and you feel the peace and you're in the present moment, as opposed to being in the shadow and working from there and like trying to maintain all these moving parts within your shadow, and how much energy you expend, and how terrible it feels, even though you're like, it's like if you're trying to stay afloat, but you're sinking anyways when we're operating in our shadows. Lots of really fun stuff to talk about here. I'm going to get going, but what I need to bring up is that I have really great news, and I probably should have said this first. I'll do another live soon, but I have a link where you can generate your human design chart if you haven't already. But either way, if you have or you haven't, it will give you your human design business PDF, and it will download that immediately and generate it immediately and get it straight to you. So I put in some really juicy stuff in there, and I really think it's helpful. And I really think it can give you a ton of insight, as far as like some people are coming in brand new, and it's like, your human design and you have your human design, but the actual turning it into something or using it can be kind of tricky. And so I think this PDF is going to help with that a ton. If you'd like the link to that, go ahead and just DM me PDF, and I will send you the link, and then you'll get it generated automatically. I think that's it. So I'm going to jump off of here, and I will try to get on sooner next time. And thank you so much for being here, you magical genius. Talk soon.